Goodsprings, Nevada is named after the natural springs of the surrounding area, initially used by ancient Pueblo people and later by the Paiute. Spanish settlers observed the springs in 1830 when a caravan traveled along the old Spanish Trail. Antonio Armijo commanded a route to California and called it Ojito de Tortuga, or Little Spring of the Tortoise. Mining in the area started 20 years later when Mormons set up a lead mine at Potosi, recognized as Nevada's oldest lode mine. Despite being a small oasis in the desert, Joseph Good, a cattle driver, discovered silver near the springs in 1861 and planted himself there. Good set up a miner's mercantile, but it wasn't until more silver and lead deposits were found around 1868 that a town began to form. Some say he planted cottonwood trees to mark the spring, now named after him. By 1882, gold had been discovered, establishing the Yellow Pine mining district in the notable Keystone mine, about 5 miles west of Goodsprings. The Keystone mine grew to have a post office supporting a community of about 200 people, a few stores, and numerous smaller mines scattered around it. However, a wage dispute led miners to overthrow the small government by seizing the post office. The turmoil continued for 3 months until miners and the local indigenous population were compensated for their work. Meanwhile, miners A.G. Campbell, Jonas Taylor, and William Smith built the first house, which was made of stone in Goodsprings, and it survives as one of the oldest standing buildings in Clark County. As the Keystone Mines post office shut down in 1897, Joseph Good sold his store to Samuel Yount, who opened a new post office in Goodsprings in 1899 and served as the postmaster for another 15 years. Around this time, a former soldier named Joseph C. Armstrong arrived in town from Flagstaff, Arizona, trying his luck in the mines. Joe was born in Alabama to Virginian parents. One account has his birth date as accurate as August of 1851. He was working as a day laborer in Arizona before taking on mining. He told many he had served as a scout under the command of General Terry at the time of the Custer loss and had seen the aftermath firsthand. The mines were prospering and a mill was added when the Yellow Pine Mining Company was established, consolidating ownership. Initially, transporting ore was hauled by wagon to distant shipping points, proving difficult. However, in 1905, the construction of the San Pedro, Los Angeles, and Salt Lake Railroad in nearby Jean eased the workflow. In the 1910 census, Joe lived as a boarder and was considered self-employed in mining. The township was official, and more substantial building gradually replaced its tents and shacks. With the railroad's arrival in Jean, the Yellow Pine mine increased production and built a narrow-gauge railroad from the remnants of the line that had served the Quartet mine and Searchlight. Although the spur to Goodsprings took several years, it was finished in 1911, providing passage of ore from Yellow Pine to Jean, solving the transportation issue and allowing the town to boom. Since 1902, Joe worked with a John Loop of Long Beach, California, in the Red Cloud mine on the north side of the Goodsprings and Keystone Road, about 2 miles north of Bybee Mine. It was said to be a single compartment shaft about 300 feet deep, of a vertical nature. It lacked timber and was prone to cave-ins. The total production of gold from this mine probably did not exceed 200,000. Little work was done until July of 1905, when cyanide was used in extraction. Gold cyanidation was a dangerous chemical process that used cyanide to remove gold from low-grade ore. Around this time, George Arthur Fayle, an ore hauler from Calico, California, relocated to nearby Goodsprings Junction and renamed the town Jean after his wife. With financial support from his uncle, Samuel Yount, the owner of the mercantile store in Goodsprings, Fayle set up a tent store to serve miners and ore hauling businesses. Fayle invested in his uncle's store, renaming it Yount and Fayle Store. By 1912, Fayle and his family were living in Goodsprings. The business expanded and led to the creation of the Pioneer Saloon in 1913. Fayle built the saloon from a prefabricated set of stamped tin found in a Sears Roebuck catalog. That same year, a permanent school building was erected, which continues to function. The community thrived, reaching a peak population of 1,000 in 1915. The following year, George Fayle constructed the Fayle Hotel 100 yards west of the saloon. He touted it as the finest hotel in the West, with 20 guest rooms and amenities, including electric lights, hot and cold water, steam heat, and a fine dining restaurant. The exterior was decorated in a mission style, which was popular then, and a grand ball launched its opening on May 13, 1916, as patrons enjoyed the interior with its etched glass, beautiful chandeliers, and mahogany paneling. A year later, an announcement was made that a railway extension was in the works from Jean to Goodsprings across the Columbia Summit to the mines. Initially, the hotel and restaurant were so successful that Las Vegas residents would reroute their way to Goodsprings. Reportedly, it was not only a cozy place to rest, but also saw some rowdy prospectors and soiled doves. On Labor Day, businesses held festivities of drilling contests, boxing matches, and an airplane and auto races. A large carnival filled off the night in Hotel Fayle. Samuel did not see it lasting, and eventually the hotel did see losses, leading to the end of the partnership and fire damage later on. Frank A. Doherty, who had mining interest in the region, ran the Goodspring Gazette for 4 years, starting in 1918. Its 4-page weekly continued after his death with his wife Florence, delivering to 400 subscribers, while also trying to raise 3 small children. Florence had been brought up in the newspapers, with her father being C.P. Squires of the Las Vegas Age. George Fayle also established the Fayle department store and, convinced of the town's potential, actively promoted the settlement. On December 9, 1918, he fell victim to the Spanish flu epidemic and was laid to rest in the Goodsprings Cemetery, where his headstone remains the largest. Local mines in Goodsprings produced $25 million worth of ore, with lead being the most valuable mineral due to its importance in ammunition production for both world wars. Goodsprings was one of the largest towns in Nevada and even had an ice cream parlor and a car dealership at its peak. On Saturday, June 25, 1915, Joe was relaxing at the Pioneer Saloon after a week of laborious mining. He was in his early 60s, but still very much active and resilient. Everyone liked Joe and his stories and was eager to play stud poker with him. Tony Dietrich, Tom Lowe, Roy Blood, and F.J. Schroeder joined in. Paul Koski, a 28-year-old ex-prize fighter who arrived in town about 2 years prior, was an on-and-off miner with a bad reputation. Koski, with liquor in his hand, threw his hat into the game. According to witness testimony, it was after midnight on the 26th when Koski was seen slipping a card into his hand from the bottom of the deck, and Joe called him out on it. Even the bartender, H.S. Smith, alerted the dirty play. It was first proposed that the matter be dropped and the pot be split between Lowe and Koski, but Koski demanded that it be all his and attempted to take the checks. Joe pushed him back and argued that he wouldn't have any crooked work in the game. In rage, Koski lunged across the table, aiming to strangle Joe. The confrontation escalated into a deadly battle as Joe took his 6-shooter and struck Koski over the head with it. Koski grabbed Joe's wrist, attempting to wrestle the gun away, when Joe fired, piercing through Koski's hand into his chest. Adrenaline kept Koski on top of him, so Joe fired again at least 3 more times. Koski fell back off the table and sank to the floor dead. The coroner's investigation wrapped up in just 7 hours, with Joe being exonerated on the grounds of self-defense. Koski was placed in sheets and given a quick funeral. No one else spoke a good word for Koski, who showed scars all over his body from a brutal life. Today you can still see the 3 holes in the tin walls near the western-facing door under a newspaper clipping of the man killed at Goodsprings. However, Harry Koski, Paul's brother, arrived in town a few months after looking for answers, but Joe, getting a tip, hid out. The coroner provided Harry with a letter demonstrating Paul could be a gentleman when sober. Joe wouldn't take long to return to Goodsprings, where he was listed in the 1920 census as working in the copper-gold mines and later in Las Vegas. Joe died on December 29, 1926, of heart failure at the age of 75 and was buried in Las Vegas the following day. The 20s also saw the Yellow Pine Mill site destroyed by fire, mainly leaving its foundation, and the Great Depression soured the mines. When the Hoover Dam was built, some of the town also moved its structures to the growing Las Vegas. Today, visitors can check out Sam Yount's General Store and the Pioneer Saloon, open daily. You can order up to the saloon's original cherrywood bar, pulled from a saloon in Rhyolite, and sit beside an 1860 potbelly stove, listening to good conversations with friends. Every generation knows its references, from movies to video games. This has been Biographies of the West. My name is Lorin Morgan-Richards. Thanks for watching.